last week on the Al Nicoletti Show. Let's bring him on. Let's bring this guy on. Without further ado, Justin Colby, let's go, baby.
It looks great to have all the Instagram cool photos while you're alone top of the mountain, but you're alone, and that's not fulfilling. I love real estate. I'll always do real estate. The difference is by teaching and giving back and educating and developing others actually is the fulfilling part.
What would be your advice out there to the other investors to become better educators?
Anyone listening to this who is passionate about that, then put the person first. Don't put your bank account first. Don't just try to sell them something.
What have been some of the hottest trends you're seeing in terms of investing?
Tax write-offs are a major reason that every human on the planet should be buying real estate. If you're going to cut the check one way or another to the IRS or for the real estate, you might as well cut the check for real estate so you can get the tax write-offs. You don't pay the IRS. Now you have income every month, and when you do decide to sell, you will have revenue then too.
I think it's going to really wake up some people when they listen to the episode or watch the episode. It's just tremendous value. What do you find is the hardest part of your job or role?
I talk a lot about these 5 laws of success. Decide what you want and who you need to be get it. You got to commit to that. You got to take a lot of action. You have to be extremely uncomfortable, and you need to remove your time expectation on the results you're trying to achieve. Do not be so cocky to think that you have tomorrow. Today is the day you got to go start creating your life.
Justin, you're the man.
Appreciate you, dude. Thank you for having me.
Welcome to the show. Another Wednesday night in the studio. I hope you all enjoy this episode tonight. And if you enjoyed last week's episode, you got to go back and check it out. Another great episode. We're always going to bring the best value, best guest to you. So check that out. And of course, you can scan the QR code at the top of the screen. You know you're going to get our link tree. Everything from the social media pages, iTunes, Spotify, Instagram, everything from the show and everything from things we're talking about with probate and messy title all over the place, and YouTube. YouTube's been big. Check that out. And we're going to always get these guests over to you. Tonight, I got a very special guest for you guys, Brandyn Schwalm. This guy is crushing it in Florida. Like, doesn't matter where, like all corners of it. And I've had the honor and pleasure of working with Brandyn for the last couple of months. Thank you to Ryan Kopchak out there at Southeastern Title in Orlando. I mean, Brandyn and I have really dialed in a system on probate, and he is dialed in a system on getting these deals done all over. So we're going to hear about this, how he's done it virtually. I mean, he's been doing this 10 plus years. He's done over 600 deals, and he's doing 90% of his business in Florida. I mean, this is classic of what we need to learn and how do we break it down. So I got my pen ready. I got my paper ready. We're going to take notes on this so we can really learn from a super investor on how you do these deals. Let's rock this thing. Hey, everybody. My name is Al Nicoletti. I'm an attorney here in Florida, and welcome to the Al Nicoletti Show, where I bring on real estate super investors, rising rock stars, movers and shakers, and leaders of clubs in their communities that educate, entertain, and inspire all things on Florida real estate. And we will always bring on the best of the best, no matter where they are, no matter what state, what venue, what industry, in real estate, outside of real estate. We want to provide the best value to you on how you can take your company to the next level. And the twist for the season part 2 of season 5 has been, it's not even just your company. It's you personally, it's you professionally, it's you and leveling up you. That's what it's all about on the show. And these are the guests that we're trying to bring on. So on the episode today, got a very special guest for you guys, a super investor really focusing in the Florida market, doing deals at a high volume. When somebody says, are you a high volume investor? You're thinking, okay, maybe they do 5+ deals. Brandon's he's doing more than 5+ deals a month. I mean, they're going hard and they're consistently doing it. He's got a team dialed in. He's got a process. And what's so impressive is he doesn't have to constantly be in it. He can hire the right people, get the right people on the acquisitions, the TC side, and the disposition so he can get these deals going and be the CEO of the company. So without further ado, let's welcome him to the show, Brandyn Schwalm. Brandyn, how you doing, man?
Good, Al. How you doing?
Love it. Love what you're doing. I love seeing it on the level you're doing it. And I know this is going to be a great episode for everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to this, and obviously appreciate doing all of our probates.
We love it, man. Every time when we're getting them done, I'm always so excited because it's another one in the books, another one. And it just means that we're all leveling up. We're all helping each other, getting it going. And moving these deals so we can get more. So it's always a blast working with you and your team, just so you know. It's great.
Yeah, you've got a well-oiled machine. I mean, you guys pump them out faster than any attorney I've worked with. So obviously why we stick with you.
That's crazy. It's great to hear the feedback. It's great to know, and it's great to see where the trends are going in this market. Love it. Brandyn, for people that haven't heard about you, maybe know you, just give them a little brief overview of how you got to this point of being this high volume processing investor.
Yeah, I mean, I started off probably like how most people start off. I mean, I started real estate investing when I was 22. Worked for a company for a year and a half, primarily dealing with tax deed auctions. Learned everything, a lot from them, how to analyze deals, how to analyze rehabs, and basically eventually went off on my own. Started off as like a one-man band, then hired, an acquisitions, then hired a dispo, and just slowly grew it, year over year. And that's kind of, how we got to where we are. I mean, I think Americans, we have 9 Americans on our team, and then 20 something virtual assistants that help with everything else. So yeah, it's a good organization. I mean, I love my team. I want to be where we are without them. And, we're just constantly looking for A players.
Yeah, I love it. And I can already tell that you guys have A players. I mean, Savannah's done an amazing job being that leader role in that position. And then you can just see how everybody's just taking the ball and rolling with it. And it's a well-oiled machine, like you described on other levels. It's like, to build that kind of process takes a lot, and we want to learn from that, right? So
Yep.
On the external side of it, before we get to the internal part of building out the team, what have you seen be some of the hottest trends and topics going on, the hottest thing in real estate right now?
I mean, honestly, real estate, it feels like almost always the same. Like the stuff that has worked in the past still works now. And it's just like spending having good data, spending the right money, the right amount of money to reach out to those people, and then having, the good acquisitions team to take in the deals, and it's a super simple business. I mean, our business is 80% sales and marketing. So if that's what your business is, it's just focusing most of your time on that.
And 80% sales. It wasn't until we had Jerry Green on the show, and then Ryan Rice talked about it as well, of how important having sales training is for your team, right? And so when you say that it's really 80% sales, how are you dialing that in with your team to understand that it's not just, hey, I got a CRM, hey, I'm picking up a deal, but how to talk to these people?
Yeah, I mean, it's creating a sales process, having a script. I mean, we don't have so much of a script. We have more of like a process of flow that they follow. They actually do Jerry Green's Wednesday training every week. And then we have a couple of sales training ourselves as well. And then, I mean, one of the main things I do with helping them is going through their calls every week, listening to them myself, and then also going through those calls with them, being like, how do you improve here? Like, oh, what could have you done? Oh, you were talking too much, or you weren't talking enough. It's just like finding, where we're going to get the best, ROI on our time is me spending it, getting them better in sales, and obviously getting them better leads at the best price.
Yeah, and getting all that processes dialed in for sure. So
Yep, exactly.
So let me ask you, you've built this to 7 figures. I mean, this has gotten to a huge operation. And really, you've done it with a virtual team. I know what it is like I know it's been like on my end. We're all virtual. There's no office. We're all virtual. Everybody's scattered all over. But for you to do that at that figure level, how have you done it? And how did you figure out how to build that and find those right pieces?
Well, I mean, so when I started the company, I thought like, what would I want if I was a top player, if I wanted to work for someone? And for me, it was like I wanted to be able to work whenever I wanted from wherever I wanted, right? And also at the same time with virtual, if you have an office, let's say just in Orlando, you're limited to, the talent pool in that city. Whereas like if you're virtual, I mean, you're essentially limited to the world, like our best sales guy lives in Massachusetts. He doesn't even live in Florida. It's like a totally different world, different market up there. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely difficult. It has its pros, it has its cons, but for me, I just thought about what would I want, because like for me, my deal is trying to find the best talent and keep them for as long as we can, and that's because like a lot of the problem that people in our organization or our industry have is that their sales teams are a revolving door, so then you have like really good months and then someone leaves, and really bad months, and it's just trying to avoid that as much as I can by paying them more than what most of our competitors pay, and giving them a lot of freedom.
Yeah, freedom. And when you're virtual, I mean, you get perks on that, right? I mean, you don't have to be in the office and commute every day and have to show up to work like that. Like you show up right away, and virtual is just amazing. It's a game changer. So when you want to find these A players, the ones that are doing this on the internal side at a high level, what are some of the characteristics you look for in the hires of these people?
A trend I've noticed is like people that are ex-athletes, athletes, whether in high school, college, and people that they were in like the military, or a cop, or like actually our top guy was a cop for 8 years, no sales experience, came in and did $250,000 his first year as a sales agent.
Wow, really? So it's that background of just like the authority, or I remember Lee Arnold was on stage, and he talked about how he likes hiring the athletes because they got this competitive nature to them. So they're problem solving. They want to get that, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's like if you see someone on the board absolutely killing it, like you want to be number one on the board. You don't want to be last. You want to be first. It's and looking for those competitive people because they're not going to let anyone else beat them.
Love that. So how do you, as that CEO role, keep them motivated, kind of keep them in check? Because, it's easy to step back as the CEO and say, well, nope, I've hired someone, they got it. But sometimes you got to be the one, you can't be fully out, like you got to be in a little bit. What's that process like of keeping everybody on that level?
Yeah, it's just like constant communication, going through their numbers, seeing where they're at this quarter, where they're at for the month, and what their goal was for the year and what they were looking to make, and like, are you on track or are you off track, and like, how do I help you get stay on track? And I mean, that's really like the thing. It's just like being in communications with them, and obviously you have issues, you have tough times, and it's just like getting through those as well. Because I mean, sometimes, one agent will get 15, 20 deals in a month, and then sometimes they may get 2, it just depends.
Yeah. And I'm sure like, it can get really frustrating on the team's end when the deals aren't coming through and you're thinking, well, what's going on? What's happening? But when they're like talking you through it and you're talking them through it, maybe it's a slow period, right? Maybe it's just the market's dips, and you need that feedback as CEO. So you could say, all right, I got to maybe pivot in this direction, or let's try this market, or let's go here. And so, like you said, having that communication back and forth with everybody is going to enhance that experience for you. Are you doing like quarterly meetings, like where you bring everybody together, or is it still through Zoom, or?
So we usually do one meeting in person a year. Typically in the summer, we're all like the sales guys and the dispo will get together, and we'll hang out, have fun, and then do work together, as well as like we're in an office. And then once a year, typically in December, we'll do like an all-paid company trip somewhere. Typically, like Costa Rica, Mexico, Vegas, DR, places like that.
Wow, really? That's really cool. That is that, and I'm sure. Well, you tell me, like, what does that do for you guys when you've had that experience? It's like you always are working, but then you have that like out of office, out of country experience. What's the bonding like going on there?
Yeah, no, it's definitely just a lot of team building and getting to know each other better. And, because obviously a lot of our conversations are very work focused and formal every week, whereas like getting out of that and then just like hanging out and being friends.
Do you ever get to see some of the other qualities of maybe strong suits or strengths that you didn't know about each other during those types of events, and that you say, I didn't know you were good at this, or you like, having conversations, and then you're like, you go back to the office and you're like, I'm going to put you in this role. I'm going to see how you do here, because I can tell on this level, you'd probably do well.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing that I've noticed with the people that do really well, I mean, they're super competitive ones. So like, we do our company trip, we'll do some kind of like sporting, whatever, if it's bowling or paddle or something dumb where you're just playing and having fun, seeing the competitive edge. But then noticing, because it's all expense and paid to get there, and the Airbnb or hotel is free, but seeing people's financial thermostat, and how, we've noticed people that have higher financial thermostats tend to do better. If they're used to making a lot of money and spending a lot of money, they tend to do better because they have to spend a lot of money. So they have to make a lot of money.
Yeah, that makes sense. Do you guys do like team competitive games with trying to get the revenue or trying to get like leads in? Do you get that kind of stuff?
Yeah, we'll do like every quarter we'll typically have some sort of like last quarter, for example, was like every week we had whoever worked the most hours that week won the week. And then at the end of the 12 weeks for the quarter or 13 weeks for the quarter, we'll put the 13 weeks in like a spinning wheel and basically spin the wheel. And then whoever, wins that week on the wheel wins the $5,000 bonus, because like initially we were thinking like, oh, whoever does the most hours for the quarter will win it. But then it's like someone may just get super far ahead and then everyone will just give up. Whereas like if all they have to do is win the week and then give them a 1 in 13 chance to win $5,000, then every week, typically they're all trying.
That's really cool. Yeah, that seems like a process that you guys have dialed in, and it keeps everybody like going, right? It keeps everybody motivated, and probably keeps it fun even in the office, even amongst each other. So
yeah, exactly.
What other suggestions or thoughts do you have with keeping the team virtual that people that have virtual teams maybe are not realizing or think about on such a high volume?
Like what to do exactly?
Yeah, like, I know a couple investors that are keeping this virtual as well, and they're getting really high volume, but they're starting to see the pain points of going high volume, hiring more people, being virtual, and then trying to meet that quota every single month. And it's starting to get to a point of like, if the economy slows down or the market slows down, it's like, you still got to keep up that quota. Any suggestions on maybe either software, keeping the team lean, any kind of learning lessons that you've been through on virtual?
I mean, the first thing I thought of is just like, it's just finding the right people. Like if you have the right people, it'll all figure itself out. So it's just like constantly looking for, we're a people business. And when I've noticed the biggest like increases in revenue in my company is when we've brought in the right people. And then when we haven't seen an increase in revenue, it's when we brought in the wrong people. So it's just trying to bring in little as the wrong people as possible and bring in as many as the right people as possible.
It's always about just the right people. You gotta find those people.
Super simple.
Yeah. Speaking of the right people, when you want to get into some deals and you got to partner up, you got to have the right partnerships, right? So partnerships is a huge topic among a lot of investors. I remember the first time I heard about investors really getting into partnerships had to be like 2019, 2020 at the Yellowbird events here in Jacksonville, and about what it's like to find a partner, what qualities you need to look for. Do you just jump into it? Do you build that relationship? And it doesn't matter if it's on a deal basis, maybe deal by deal, or maybe an end buyer basis. At the end of the day, building those partnerships and relationships are critical to having that success as an investor. What is your take on those right partnerships?
Yeah, so I mean, for like my main partners outside of like the wholesaling businesses for like our new construction and then doing new manufactured homes, and then obviously like the retail team that takes on our, any of our leads that don't make sense as a investment lead, sending them to a brokerage and having them worked. And for me, like the realtor I've known for 15 plus years, have a lot of trust there, and then with the builder and then the mobile home dealer, it's just having that trust with them. And I met them through referrals. Basically people referred them, said that we'd do well together, and both trustworthy people. And that's kind of been, because my main thing is just like focusing on the wholesale flip side. And then when I find the other stuff that makes sense for like a piece of land to build on, or a piece of land to, put a new manufactured housing on, having those right partners that, hey, I bring the deal, you do everything else, and we split the profits, whatever, however.
Got it. So on the partnership side, the strength, so what you're able to do is just definitely bring the deal, right? Find the deal, bring the deal. And then who you're looking for on the other side is somebody just to swipe up everything else and get it done and closed, right?
Yeah, the operator, like for the new construction side, it's more like I bring the deal, I pay for the financing and like pay the monthly payments, and then he builds at cost, and then we split the deal 50-50.
Great. Yeah.
So and so like he just focuses on building, which is what he's good at, and I focus on finding the deal and just paying for the deal while it's being done.
Yeah. And it's I'm sure it's not the easiest to find, but when you find it, you're like, now we're in a rhythm. Now I got this person that I can work with and get these things done, and we can make a lot of money.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like in the past, I've tried to do like new construction deals on my own or new manufactured housing deals on my own, and it just ends up distracting me from the main thing, which is this business that produces most of my income. So it's like finding those people that you can trust that can do that, still make money there, but not taking away my attention from this.
Yeah. And I'm sure you probably like have that huge drive and passion for finding those deals. That's probably what just gets you up every day. You're like, oh, I got another one. Where a lot of people struggle on that. There's people that have been doing this 5, 10, 15 years and still struggle getting those kind of deals. But once you got that process dialed in, it's huge. Speaking of trying to find deals, leveraging software, are you a big proponent in leveraging a lot of these softwares like either PropStream or InvestorLift or any of these companies?
Yeah, I mean, we don't use PropStream that much. I'll do it if I need to find out roughly how much someone owes on a property. We use InvestorLift sometimes for selling some of our deals, but we've had issues in the past with people trying to go behind our back, trying to go direct to seller, even though we have the contract. I think data is important. I've used 80/20 REI for 4 years. And, basically every month they have like a curated list for you to mail, curated list for you to cold call. And that's been super helpful on finding those sellers that we're looking for.
Yeah, because that software stuff is bigger than ever. Like people like Tyler Austin out there with REI Sift. A lot of people love using REI Sift. I mean, it's all at your fingertips, right? It's all out there. It's just a matter of like, can you actually on a consistent basis utilize it and have the right team members to actually make that thing work, right?
Yeah.
Brandon, in a market that feels like it's getting a little bit more saturated with investors, more have come in the last couple of years after COVID. There's a lot it's a low barrier to entry sometimes with the investing, and so many people can come in, right?
Yeah.
What would you say to those that are just jumping in would be some of the best practices for investors to start really implementing some of the things that you're seeing out in the field? You're like, no, that's not how I learned it. Like, this is how you should be doing it. This is the right way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, something that's super frustrating, that's very common in our industry, is the people that are locking up deals way too high and then like hoping that they can either find, the next dummy to buy it, which in this market's not happening because it's a pretty, slow market right now, especially in Florida, or just hoping that they can get a price drop out of the seller. So that's not something like we never go in making an offer hoping that we can get the deal based on a price drop, and I think that's a pretty common thing that's been happening in our industry right now. It's just like people are so thirsty to get a deal that they're like locking up deals that make no sense. And I mean, I get wholesale deals sent to me every day, and I look at the numbers and I'm like, I don't know what the heck you're looking at.
Really? That's happening more and more.
Oh, it's insane.
Wow.
It's insane.
And I'm sure it's not a great look on their end too, because you want to build that relationship, and it's like a turnoff, right? You're just like, all right, and if you bring me another one, I'm not even going to look at it. So like, you got to start from the beginning, like, make your great first impression and do it the right way. Funny you say that, because that was a topic that came up in one of these Facebook groups with the land community about how frustrating it is where a lot of new land investors will come in and they're just pricing the land way too high, and it's ruining that market where it is.
Mm-hmm.
And it's throwing off sellers because they think I can get this. And it's like, that's not the value of that property right now. The demand is not there. Builders are not going to want to come in on that number,
No, super unrealistic numbers that I just don't even know how, and it sucks because like all these people that are doing it, it's just gonna put more of a sore eye on our industry. And that's not good because then it just means more regulations and none of the fun stuff.
Yeah, I totally get it. When it comes to getting these deals on the acquisition side, what have been some of your favorite or best forms of marketing? Are you a big proponent of the outbound cold call, direct mail, or are you more on the inbound side with PPC or PPL?
So we do basically everything. I mean, we do direct mail, TV, cold calling, PPL, PPC. So we're basically hitting them at all channels.
Yeah.
And it's funny because like we had one of our leads that just closed yesterday. We were just talking about it on our call, and I was like, we had sent that seller 9 pieces of direct mail in the last 2 years, never responded, and then responded to a cold call. Then it ended up being a $45,000 rip. And it's like, it's weird how like we've sent her 9 pieces of mail, never responded, then answers a cold call, and then we get it locked up.
On that call, did you ask her about the 9 pieces of mail? Did she get them?
No, she didn't. Like, I didn't know this until like basically when we're doing our KPIs for the end of the week, and then like we see what deals closed and see where they came from. Because like 80/20, for example, will tell you how many times you mailed them, how many times they've been added to a cold call list. So like you can see like basically if you've reached out to them from different channels. And yeah, I mean, I was just like, oh, that's weird. We've sent them that many pieces of mail, never responded, but answers a phone call.
Oh man, I would have loved to have known, like on a research side, like did she recognize the name from all the letters and kind of like a psychological, I keep seeing, the company, and it's like all of a sudden, like I got the call and like, yep, I feel trusted and I feel like I like them. You know what I mean? It's like there's a relatability with the letter kind of thing, and she was ready.
Yeah. Or it's just like we had the wrong mailing address. I mean, that could be something too. Unlikely though, because owner occupied and we were mailing the house, because I looked into that. But yeah, I mean, on the cold calls, they're not really cold calling as, I buy FL. They're just, local investor kind of thing.
Right.
So there's no like brand there.
And on the PPL and the PPC side, how have you dialed that process in? Because I know there's investors, and I've seen PPC on my end, where the PPC, you got to get to it like in 2 minutes, like immediately. Under that. I mean, how have you dialed that process in with your team?
So basically when like a PPC or PPL lead comes in, it immediately texts all 5 of our acquisition managers of the new lead. And so then they just go, I mean, whoever's available hammers them. And then sometimes you'll see like 4 of them have called within like the first couple minutes, but usually someone gets to it within a minute.
It's all about the speed getting to them, right?
Especially with inbound like PPC, because they're probably just filling out 4 forms, 5 forms. And so you're trying to like break that, break them from doing that, and hoping that they fill out your form first, then you immediately call them and it stops them from keep filling it out because maybe they think you solved their problem.
Yeah, and I remember doing some PPC as like on the attorney side, and I remember we got back to them the next day, and they actually, it was crazy on the lawyer side because you'd be intrigued by this. We reached out to them and they said, "Oh, thank you so much for reaching back out. We tried contacting 6 other attorneys and nobody got back to us." And I was like, "What?" Versus the investor where it's like we hammer it like right away. So,
I think you'd be surprised about how many investors still don't reach out to them that fast.
Really?
For sure.
Wow. And that's just a waste of marketing dollars and money. I mean, you're already pumping this in between the service company and the leads in your area. I mean, it's not a cheap process. I mean, that's a huge ad spend for people.
No, I mean, just got to understand like what the average investor is doing. And it's like, you don't have to be that much better to get deals. Like you really don't.
Just have that speed.
Just be speed and have like a process.
Yeah.
And have the right people. That's all it is.
And build that team out. Just build that team out, have the right people. Yeah, I love that. Love that. Well, one of your favorite leads, I'm sure you got a bunch of different leads you can go over, but I know one of your favorite leads has been probate leads because, a lot of these properties, the people either aren't living there, they're motivated, they're ready to sell, and they can produce some really high margins, right? What have you seen from the probate leads that really gets you going on a acquisition end of like, yep, this is going to be good. We got this.
Yeah. I mean, you're just solving a problem, because a lot of the good thing with probates is like a lot of these people are inheriting like free and clear property. So it's high equity. And then, they're essentially getting free money. So like, they're not caring if they take a 30 or 40K, less for the convenience of like, hey, like we'll pay for your probate. We'll handle it. We'll have our attorney handle the whole process for you. All you got to do is sign some papers, get the attorney what they need. And like, once they're done, you're nothing else for you to do.
Right. Yeah. And some of these people don't even know about their properties. They're just finding it out for the first time, or they've been sitting on it paying the person that owned it died and they had a mortgage on the property. So they think, I got to keep paying the mortgage, and then they're done. They don't want to pay the mortgage. It goes into foreclosure. I don't want to lose the house. I'm going to get kicked out. And it's like a whole thing with a lot of these distressed properties. So, I'm sure you see a lot of those, but also what's interesting too. And I think some of these have come up in the probate deals we worked on where maybe you only have a partial ownership interest, or maybe you were able to find 5 of them, but there's a 6th one maybe that's missing. There's no creative way around it in the probate side, and you got to work through those. So when you get these on that end, you're almost trying to buy a partial equity ownership interest in the property. There's investors that talk about it. Logan Fulmer loves talking about it. I know you're a proponent about it. What is your take on those types of deals?
I mean, I like them a lot. I mean, they're a little bit more hairy. They can be complicated for sure. But overall, I mean, the margins on those deals are great. Like, because you're solving a problem. I'll give you a prime example of one that we just did in Deltona. I mean, we've probably done like 10 or 11 of them this year. The only thing that sucks about them is you can't get loans on them because they're partial purchases. So like, they're always all of my cash into those deals. So that's one difficult, and a lot of investors in general, they'll just throw them away. Like if they can't get 100%. So then there's very limited competition for them. But we had one, it was a house in Deltona. We offered the seller, it was an ex-wife and ex-husband. They still own the property together. the divorce was done, they hated each other, but we offered them to buy the property for 170 grand. Well, basically the ex-husband just did not want to do it, just wanted to screw the ex-wife as much as he could. And, he knew that she needed the money for another purchase of a house in Georgia. And so she was like, listen, I just want to sell my half. Like, how can I sell my half? And I'm like, obviously we'll buy your half, but like, it's going to be at the severe discount. We've got so much risk with it. There's a good chance we'll have to go into litigation with your ex-husband. And that could be another 15, 20 grand of expenses. And so we ended up buying her half for $60,000 and then got her out of the picture. And then we eventually got a hold of the ex-husband and talked with him like, hey, we bought 50% from your ex-wife, got a couple options. You have either A, sell your property, your half to us, B, we list the property on MLS and we split the proceeds 50-50, or C, like, we'll file, partial, basically a forced sale. And we're both going to have to pay attorney fees. We're both going to make less money, and it's going to force a sale anyways. Because when you basically own more than like a third of ownership in Florida, you can force a sale. And so he ended up selling. All he cared about was that he made more money than her. And so then we ended up buying his half for 63 grand. So for something that we initially offered 170 on, we got for 123. And then we ended up wholesaling it, I think, for like 200.
Crazy. I mean, it ends up being a great return, right?
Yeah. And even so, like, let's say he didn't sell to us and he wanted us to just list it on the MLS, probably could have listed on the MLS for 220 and we still would have made 40 for our half.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, as long as you make sure there's enough margin on the first end of the purchase, it gives you a lot of wiggle room on the second end.
Yeah. And we had a guest that talked about this too, Max Jimenez. He came on and talked about a deal where there were like 7 people and he was able to get 6 of them and they all wanted to sell. He was able to buy them out for 21 grand. The 7th one didn't want to sell right away. And he asked that person, what do you want? He wanted his fair share of whatever that partial interest was. It ended up being like 50 or 60 grand. Ends up that the ARV on the property is like $400,000. So it's like, these things they could actually work, right?
Yep.
There's opportunity if you know how to have the right players. And like you said, you kind of have that same approach. I've heard another investor, Dave Day, talk about, which is really that partition's the nuclear option, right? First
you don't
option,
want to do it.
Right. He basically says the same thing. It's like that. You leave that to the end. First, buy them out, try to work it out, right? Then, you do your next step. And then the last resort really is, we're all going to lose a little bit of money here, but it's possible to do this. So this is an option. So, it's a great model if there's investors that do it at a high scale that don't want to do the model. And then there's, you where on the side, you're like, hey, I'm willing to still do it, even though I'm closing all these other deals, like, on a regular basis. It's like another project to handle. So,
yeah. Well, I mean, we used to throw them away, to be honest. It wasn't until like the last 2 years where one of my other buddies, I knew that he did it. And I was like, shit, like we get so many of those. Like we're spending close to 100 grand a month on marketing. And I'm like, I can't just throw away these leads when there's a bunch of margin in there, So it's like, how do I capture that profit there? And it's just, the cash conversion cycle on those ones typically are a lot longer than like a typical wholesale. But the deal sizes tend to be a lot bigger. I think our average, we've done, 10 or 11 of them this year. I don't remember the exact number, but our average deal size is over 50,000 for those.
Wow. Yeah. So it makes it a profitable business. It makes it worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. Well, I got to tell you, this is big stuff. There's a lot that people can dive in on when it comes to getting in these deals. We'll make sure people have your chyrons, your contact info, where to find you. Are you doing reels on social yet or not yet?
Not really.
Oh,
I
man.
kind of stay low key and, hide behind the company.
It's all good. You love what you're doing on the CEO side on getting up the deal, so it's perfect. No, keep doing that. Brandyn, what I do on the show is I do this segment of signature questions, right? So anything we haven't talked about yet, some of these questions relate to the real estate or business side of things, so we'll dive in on this. But
Okay.
I'll say this: a lot of us deal with challenges in our industry. I see a lot of challenges in the law industry. On a business side of running a business on a high volume basis, what challenges would you say are some of the biggest challenges you face in your industry?
I would say like scaling up properly. That's always been because like for example, like we had an issue like where we were averaging, like last year we were spending close to 60,000 a month on marketing. And I was just like, well, that's about 20K per acquisition managers because I had 3 at the time. And I was like, if I'm scaling up to 5, I'll scale up to 100,000, basically 20K each. And then hopefully the profits and revenue, go along with that. And it just did not happen because I didn't have the right people in the right seats. I didn't have them, they weren't producing. So then that was when I really got into it, just like solely about having the right people, having the right, because if you have your marketing dialed in, your sales marketing and your sales dialed in this business, the operations will figure itself out.
Right.
Because you have so much money that you could pay anyone to do anything.
And it's no problem because you know what you're doing on bringing in the business, right? Bringing in the business is not the problem.
Yeah.
It's putting those right pieces together to make sure it's flowing so you don't lose that business, right?
Exactly.
Because you don't want you're already putting all the time into it. So it's a great answer. So a lot of us wake up every day and we get into the seat, we get into work, and we see the emails, we see the marketing come in. And I know on my end, what I enjoy most is either working with the team, but also seeing that some of these marketing things that I work on work and drive in the business. And that gets me, I'm like, it's working, it's working, it's working. What do you enjoy most about your job and your position?
I think the thing I enjoy most is like building something, building the company, and then just the lifestyle that it allows it, with the amount of money you can make, the amount of freedom you can have. I mean, before I had a kid, I was traveling like 20, 25 weeks a year and just working from wherever I was. Every summer we would do like 6-8 weeks in Europe, and then I would just work from Europe, so I really enjoyed that. But yeah, I would say just building the business is the thing that excites me the most. Trying to get to 8 figures is like my sole focus, and that's all I'm building towards right now.
It's great. Yeah. And it's something that just drives you every day, right? Like gets you going, gets you excited about being there, and keeps the team going as well. Because if you're excited, team's excited, everybody's going, right?
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Brandyn, where do you see the industry as real estate as a whole in the next 5 years?
I think there'll be a lot less one-off companies. I think a lot of them will get priced out, and I think there'll be a lot of almost like super wholesalers, people that are doing 50, 100 deals a month, and they capture a lot of the market, especially as like regulation comes in, and a lot of these one-offs, they're not doing it right and not treating sellers correctly. And I think there's just going to be they're ginormous companies. Right now, I can't even, that ones that are still in business, like I only think there's only like a handful of people I know that are doing 15 million plus a year.
Wow.
And I think there'll be a lot more of those.
Wow. You think there will be a lot more like even mergers of other people like coming together, partnering up and merging. And so then it creates this conglomerate of this big real estate magnet.
Yeah. And I think eventually, wholesaling companies aren't super, like people don't really buy those companies, but I could see if you build a company big enough where these private equity firms will come in and buy some of these for these, the Open Doors or the BlackRock or any of those guys that are trying to get cheap housing.
Yeah.
Or cheaper housing.
Yeah. That's crazy. Yeah. That'd be really interesting to see that. It's a different answer from what we've heard from people of like, whether it's foreclosures or, or wholesalers, it's like, the mergers, right? Mm-hmm. That's kind of happened a little bit in the law area a couple years ago where some of the big firms were starting to partner up with the smaller firms. And so now they're merging. And so haven't seen it as much, but I think it'll continue happening probably even on the law side of things. So that's really cool.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah. And last question for you. What's next for Brandyn?
I mean, for me, like my sole focus is just building this to 10 million and then try to take me out of the CEO seat as much as possible and focus on bigger asset classes, commercial, stuff like that. That's kind of like where I'm heading, is doing more of that kind of stuff, just because, the deal sizes in commercial, you could do 2 deals and make what, doing 200 deals in wholesaling takes you to do.
Yeah.
But
sometimes the most boring thing actually is the one that makes the most money too. So you never know. But yeah, we've heard that. We've heard that from people. We've heard it from Justin Colby. He talked about instead of doing all these 200 plus deals, he just does a one deal apartment complex and it's already making tons of money. So yeah, cool. I look forward to seeing what you guys do at iBuy and the trends and watching the team. It's always something to visualize, even on my side of the thing of things with the team, to say, hey, like, see what we're doing on our process is it's not much different from what they're doing. And when you guys are doing it, we're doing it right. It's like, it's working, right? So it's like, it's a mirror image of like, hey, it's working out. And this is what other people should be doing. This is how other people should be running their business to make it smooth. And that's what makes it work. That's what makes us be able to do a podcast. And our teams are working on everything, It's like, that wasn't happening for me, at least like 4 or 5 years ago. I could not do that. But now it's like, all right, got those pieces in place. So love it, Brandyn. Great info, great value for people. I know that there are investors that are striving to keep going to that high volume basis like you're at, and to keep getting more of the messy deals, the probate deals, and to build out that team to keep it lean, but also profitable and scalable. And so it's going to be an inspiration to people that will watch this show. So I got to say, really appreciate you taking the time to come on out of your day to be on the show tonight. Love it. Brandyn, as I do on my show, I do a segment called Final Words, Final Thoughts. It's anything that you want to really leave the audience with a lasting impression. That one last piece of advice that they can really take away so they can really level up their business. So as I do, final words, final thoughts, Brandyn Schwalm.
I mean, I've said this, I'll say it until I'm blue in the face. I've already said it a couple times on this call or on this podcast. Just find the right people. Find the right people, it'll figure itself out. And for me, that's what I've noticed is when I have the right people in the right seats, the money comes in.
And it's the game changer. That's it. Yep. Love it. Well, Brandyn, make sure, anybody watching right now, make sure, reach out to Brandyn, find his company. You got some kind of deals. Make sure you send him the legit ones. Reach out to him. He is a wealth of knowledge. He's crushing it right now. You may have a deal. You never know. Tons of people will get value from this, will listen to the episode. And this is what's happening right now, Brandyn. I get people that'll reach out to me and say, hey, I just heard your episode, Brandyn. I heard your episode with Justin. It's like, we're already starting to implement this. It's crazy. So the impact it will have, love it, man. Just love it. Thanks again for being on.
Thank you, Al. Have a good one.
You too. We'll see you soon, Brandyn. We'll keep crushing those probates, man.
Thanks, man. See ya.
All right, man. All right, everybody. Another one in the books on Wednesday night. Great episode with Brandyn Schwalm. If you missed any of that, go back to the beginning. Talked about the basic theme was find the right people. I 100% agree with Brandyn. When you find the right people, it can change your business. It can automate your business. and it could take more things off your plate. I know there's investors out there that are doing maybe a couple deals a month, but I also know there's some that want to do more than that or are doing more than that. And they want to learn, how does somebody like this do this? And Brandyn really broke that down on a very super investor, high volume basis, right? How do you do this? It's really about finding the right people and dialing your process in. Absolutely love it. Check him out. Loves getting into that probate niche. I know it. And if you missed any of it, check it out. Scan the QR code right there on the bottom of the screen. You know where to find us. Catch all the micro, catch all the guests from season 1 to season 5. And the season's going to keep on rolling. And another one in the books. We'll see you all next Wednesday night, 9 p.m. Eastern. Have a great night, everybody. Take care.